Desire is irrelevant. I am a machine. Talk to the hand. Hello everyone, you're on an all-new action reaction, and today I'm going to be going over Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Kristana Loken, Nick Stahl, Claire Danes, with an appearance by Earl Bowen, and is directed by Jonathan Mostow, with special effects done by Stan Winston. Yeah, Jonathan Mostow took the place of James Cameron. James Cameron decided after Terminator 2 that the story was pretty much complete. And Arnold Schwarzenegger was originally kind of skeptical. He didn't want to continue on without James Cameron. James Cameron pretty much said, hey, Terminator is as much as yours as it is mine. Just ask for a shitload of money. And that's what Arnold did. And in 2003, they made Rise of the Machines. So it's 12 years after Terminator 2 in real life when they made it, but it's several years after the story of T2. The story of T2 is somewhere around 1995. This takes place in 2003. Judgment Day did not occur. You may wonder, how did they continue the story after Judgment Day? Well, John Connor pretty much lives off the grid. He has no phone number, he has no address. He just is basically like a homeless guy who has a construction job during the day. In a mysterious way, two Terminators arrive. The T-800, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Kristana Loken's T-X. They have no whereabouts of John Connor, so they pretty much target all of his lieutenants before Judgment Day happens. And they explain how Judgment Day occurs in this. Pretty much you find out that Judgment Day is inevitable, that they did not stop Judgment Day in T2, they merely postponed it. Again, Arnold is the good guy, but this time we're introduced to a character called Catherine Brewster. You find out that she is the future wife of John Connor, so he must protect her. John Connor and her knew each other when he was younger, but with the T-1000 coming to attack him when he was younger, it changed the timeline a bit, so they didn't meet. Her father is a general, and there he's pretty much working on Skynet before it's launched. It's software in this version. So we get to see the rise of the machines. The TX has to target the lieutenants. She discovers that John Connor is there, and the mission becomes to kill anybody with TechCom, the resistance, and to ensure the rise of the machines and Skynet prevailing. Overall, it's pretty much kind of a ripoff of Terminator 2. It's not as well done as the first two Terminators, but it is a good film in its own right. It's just nowhere near the level of the first two movies. Edward Furlong was going to reprise the role of John Connor, but he was dealing with substance abuse problems and had to drop out. Linda Hamilton was asked back, but originally she was going to be killed off in a certain sequence of the film, and she decided that Sarah deserved better than that, which I don't blame her. Overall, this film really lacks the involvement of James Cameron. It's hard to continue a series where not only did the director direct a film, but he wrote, directed it, he pretty much created Terminator. So it's kind of hard when you don't have the creator of the previous two films involved in this one. Arnold does play more of a machine in this. He's not as human, and I do like some of the moments he has. But this is, besides a ripoff, a self-parody in a way. The jokes, some of them are funny. There is some great moments, but there's other moments that are very cringeworthy and just all around the exact opposite of what the first two movies were. The biggest sin, before I get to the pros, that this film has is that it's just way too short. It starts off and the beginning's good, although the lack of a cool opening sequence should tell you something, that something's off about this one, but the way it ends, it's getting somewhere. It does have a good twist, but it's like the movie's about to go somewhere and then it just decides to end right as it's getting good. And yeah, that just really affects this film. It's very short. It's probably around the length of the first Terminator, but it just feels like it's just half-baked. It doesn't feel like it's fully realized like the first two films. The action, there is some good moments. Stan Winston's effects are amazing. The way the machines look, I love the look of this film. The cinematography, everything about this film has a kind of a cool, sleek look that gives it its own identity as Terminator 3. I like the redesigns of the Hunter Killer machines. There is a crane chase that's actually really well done. They flipped a crane truck and they had to computerize that. Some of the computerized effects are a bit dated, but other than that, the effects are top notch. They add a bit more green screen use with the T-800's endoskeleton underneath the skin, so that's really cool. The TX is pretty much T-800 and T-1000 combined, and it's kind of cool seeing the first female Terminator. I saw Kristana Loken in shows like Mortal Kombat Conquest, so it's kind of cool seeing her here. Arnold Schwarzenegger, as always, makes it. He's a bit different than his other two Terminators, but I like that. It's a different machine. He really did it differently. Claire Danes is good as Kate Brewster. Nick Stahl sounds a bit like Tobey Maguire in this movie, but I like him for what he is as John Connor. He's older, so that's kind of cool. I miss Edward Furlong. He's like the best John Connor, but Nick Stahl, since this is like the first different John Connor, I can understand him being different because he was a kid before, so he would look a bit different as an adult. Kristana Loken, she had to take mime classes to basically learn facial expressions. She reminds me very much of Arnold in the first Terminator. You do get some moments of dread, like in the first movie, despite all the other parody stuff they have. And that funky monkey scene, oh my god, don't get me started. But once the machines start to rise and you realize that there's like 48 hours until Judgment Day, the movie really takes off. You get to see early prototypes of the Terminators. The fight between the T-800 and the TX is really, really well done. It has some great moments, and then there's also one part where the TX reprograms the T-800. And that's sad because that's really a missed opportunity. I really wanted to see two Terminators and the T-800 be a bad guy again. Overall, Terminator 3 is one of those films that's good in its own right, but has a lot of great ideas that are not fully realized or not properly executed. And it just kills me because there's so many directions, interesting directions at that they could have taken the Terminator franchise after Judgment Day. And Rise of the Machines ultimately just feels like a cash grab and doesn't really do anything innovative like the first two films. Really, the story did end in Terminator 2. But it does have that twist ending with Judgment Day being inevitable. Of course, this goes against the whole there's no fate but what we make for ourselves, but then also adds to a whole, hey, it's inevitable, you postponed it, and no matter what we do, we're going to destroy ourselves. So it adds an interesting twist of John Connor pretty much having to accept his fate. He doesn't want to accept being the future leader of the Resistance, but he has to at the end. And that's such a brilliant ending. I just wish that we got to see more after that. The movie just ends right when it's getting interesting. Even if the Rise of the Machines happened, I would have loved if it was like halfway through the movie instead of in the third act. It really would have made it interesting for an all-out, chaotic movie. The cemetery scene is really well done with the coffin. I love that. There is some good moments in here. The vehicles and gunplay, though, isn't as well done as in T2 Judgment Day. It just appears a little lame. Other than that, though, it's an okay movie, but just not as well done as the other two. But hey, at least it's rated R, and you do get some solid moments. So I give it a B and a 3 out of 5. Terminator 3 ultimately is a letdown and not as well done as the first two films, but by itself, as an action movie, it has enough action and entertainment to make it a great ride. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, as always, is great as the Terminator. This is his signature role. A 3 out of 5 and a B. I remember seeing this movie July 2nd of 2003. There's two PlayStation games it had, Terminator 3 The Redemption, Rise of the Machines. I have Rise of the Machines, and also a PC game, which was War of the Machines. And then you had the Sarah Connor Chronicles and stuff after that, but you never really had a full sequel to this. Terminator Salvation was made, but it didn't have Claire Danes or Nick Stahl, and ultimately it kind of disappoints me that they didn't have a proper follow-up right after this to see where it went with the future war. It was kind of cool to find out that Arnold, this T-800, killed John Connor before he was reprogrammed, and hearing about John Connor's kids and stuff and then the future. Ultimately, we really should have a future movie. But as far as the pros, the action is good in its own right. It's not as well done as the first two, but it is a solid movie. There's a bike scene, the fights. I like the TX, the T-800. John Connor, he's not as good as Edward Furlong, but Nick Stahl does a really good job at basically not wanting to embrace his destiny. I like Claire Danes as Kate Brewster in this. I thought she was much better than Bryce Dallas Howard in number 4. Jonathan Mostow does a pretty good job directing this, even though he's not James Cameron. It is a good film. He also did another underrated sci-fi film called Surrogates with Bruce Willis later on. Oh yeah, Marco Beltrami's score. It's not like Brad Fidel's, but it does offer a little bit more of her heroic type of like military theme for Terminator. Even though it's not as dark or as epic as Brad Fidel's, Marco Beltrami's score is good. I love Earl Bowen's cameo as Dr. Silverman. Above all, it's not the first two, but for a third movie, we really can't expect a third movie to be as good as the first two, especially one without the creator-director of the previous. Anyway, that's my action reaction of Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. If you haven't seen Terminator 3, I highly recommend it, and the first two films, as well as the sequels if you want to. Anyway, did you see Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines? If so, let me know what you thought about the film in the comments below. Again, if you like this video, click the like button, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Don't forget to hit that bell so you can know when I upload videos.